enhanced.
Yes, I agree. I think it's great that we're going to start having this beautiful weather so that we can get out and enjoy the sunshine, because I think a lot of us could really use that. I
Yep.
think a lot of other things that we could use today is finding out what's going on in the mortgage business with the pandemic that we're situated with right now. What do you guys have going on at PenFed?
Marie, thank you for asking. We're very fortunate that we have such a solid partner in the PenFed Credit Union because we're able to do business as normal considering what we're going through. We have closed our offices, and since March 12th, about thereabouts, we all are working from home. But PenFed was very proactive to make sure that our VPN, which I don't really know what it means, you do, would be able to function with virtually 1,500 to 2,000 employees being online. And we are fortunate that we have been able to do that. Our partners in operations, the processors, the closers, underwriters, they're all working from home. So we don't have that typical environment where we can help each other, but we've been able to close loans on time. And also with the emphasis, our purchase business is number one in our platform.
That's great news. I know it's been an interesting real estate time, even for real estate agents. We're trying to get used to doing more work from home. Real estate is a very social business, and we're used to being out and talking to clients face to face, meeting them at houses, meeting home inspectors, meeting appraisers, and we've been limited. So we're coming from that same point of view where we're used to talking to people face to face, and now we're having to do things a little bit different, which helps with what we're doing right now, doing these live interviews and getting information out to the public, because they still have questions, they still need us, and I think it's great, and that's why I appreciate you being here. I know that we all hear the commercials. PenFed has great rates for everyone. What can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Marie. And before I get into that, I just want to let you know that I truly miss the face-to-face contact. I miss the relationships. That's been one of the most difficult things for me, to be caged up in my little office here and not seeing people, because I really enjoy that experience. Well, so what PenFed has been doing is, and as one of our partners, you've seen the emails that we've sent, is every weekend, which we think is the prime period where people are looking to buy, we've been offering pricing specials for purchase loans. And we've reduced our lock-in period to 45 days, which provides the best price, because our goal is to settle the loans in 30 days, so we have a 15-day buffer. Our rates, without quoting APR right now, have been on a 30-year conforming loan with either VA or conventional, typically below 3% in the last 2 months, which is, to me, is unheard of. I've been in the business 35 years, and I bought a home in 1981, and the interest rate was 15.5%.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to listen to this that remember those times where we were in double-digit interest rates. And today, even with interest rates being low and continuing to go lower, some of the newer buyers that weren't around during the time of the double point interest rates don't understand what a major event this is right now when you can get these low interest rates, because it is still the time to buy.
Everything is relative to what your mindset is. So the millennials, don't understand, well, why do I care what happened in 1981? I need to know what's happening now. And that's what's important, is that we know, as you and I both know, that the consumer right now is inundated with media and advertisement and marketing, and said, why should you buy now? And why should you buy with us? And why should you get your mortgage with us? And so we really have to, as partners, be able to reach out to the potential buyer and explain why should they use PenFed. And that's what we're going to chat about in this conversation is why they should seek you as a PenFed realtor, why they should seek me as a PenFed lender.
I agree. And what we're seeing right now with everywhere from millennials all the way up to baby boomers and beyond is they're still buying, they're still selling, and they still need a mortgage. And they still need someone that they can actually speak to ask questions, and to be able to have a loan officer that you can pick up the phone and talk to that loan officer, and the group that that loan officer works with is very important, because we've heard too many times on our side, on the real estate side, where a client is saying, you know, I call and I get a different person every time I call, or I send an email and I don't get a response, or I don't know who to leave a message with. Are you accessible to your clients?
Well, I think that's why I came to PenFed, because I was actually recruited to PenFed by a realtor who knew me and said, you would be a great loan officer in our platform because you're an old-fashioned loan officer that did business before they had cell phones, before they had text, before they had fax, and the way you did business was face-to-face interviews, and you pick up the phone. And the other aspect that I appreciate within the PenFed platform is that I'm a partner to your branch. So your branch knows they have one call to make, one-stop shop, and your clients that come to your office know that I am available. We work, we understand that the weekends are the prime time when people are available, because in many cases with dual income, they're both working, they may have families. So to meet me on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock is not convenient. They would like to meet me on Saturday at 10 o'clock. So I have learned through my background and my experience that I need to block out Saturday mornings, typically from 9 to 1, as of being available to meet face to face, and then follow up with folks during the week on a schedule that's convenient with them.
Excellent. You're absolutely right. I mean, as a realtor, we tend to do more business in the evening and weekends. And fortunately or unfortunately, right now, with more and more people at home and working from home, we've actually been able to do a lot more business during the day and during the week. And don't worry, I'm not telling anyone's employers that they're out searching for homes while they should be at home working. But it's given the consumer more time and more ability to be able to keep up with the housing market, to keep up with the lender market, and to keep up with the economy, and to be able to have someone that's available to answer these questions, whether it be by phone, email, or a lot of people do it by text as well. It's great to have that opportunity. I would like to find out how you feel about people that say, is this a good time to buy?
That's a great question. And I go back to the thought that people buy with their hearts and their emotions, and then they have to go to their brains and see, okay, does this really make sense for me? And so there's questions that we can't answer for a potential buyer as how they feel about the emotional aspects. What we have to do is be able to comfort them that in our realm that they can qualify and they can afford to buy this home. And so that's what I try to do. I try to sit down with the buyer and say, okay, I can qualify you for this mortgage, but I also want you to be comfortable with this process. So please tell me, in your eyes, what is important to you about buying a home, and what is important to you about financing the home, and what you're comfortable with, and also what you're not comfortable with, because we do have to figure out what the hot or the points are with a couple or an individual in buying that home.
Excellent. And I think it's great that you're available to listen and ask those questions, because this is not a time where anyone should feel pressured into making a purchase. They should feel free to be able to ask questions, see if it is the right time for them, and try to keep up with how the market is doing. I know on our level, we're trying to keep the consumers up to date with what we're hearing from the real estate industry. And what, there's a lot of predictions going on what's going to happen tomorrow, next month, next year. And we can predict all we like, but we just don't know. But we got to make sure that our consumers are having the right information supplied to them at the right time, and being able to have access to both a licensed real estate professional, hopefully with PenFed Realty and with PenFed Mortgage. That's a partnership that's you can't get anywhere else, I believe.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And what I try to go back to, especially a consumer that is coming from a rental situation, I ask them, how long have you been renting? And what is your percentage increase on your rent on an annual basis? And would you be comfortable in buying the home, knowing that your mortgage, the principal and interest portion of that mortgage, is not going to increase? So unlike your rent, which may go up 3 to 5% a year, I don't know what the factors are. That's why I ask. Your mortgage is not going to go up that 3 to 5% a year on a fixed rate loan. So you should be comforted that in 5 years from now, knowing that your mortgage payment is relatively flat compared to where your rental payment could be in 3 to 5 years. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we still get quite a few people that contact us about the rental market. And one of the things that we like to be able to provide to them is that option. This is what the rental market looks like. This is what the purchase market looks like. Let's speak with a lender and see if this is now the right time for you to purchase, or is it still the right time to stay in a rental and prepare for a purchase next year. So you also offer the opportunity for people to call you now and get their credit and their finances ready for next year's purchase?
Yes, very much so, because we believe that the pre-approval process is very important, because you do not want to set up false expectations, because they just create disappointments. We want to make sure that before the potential buyer goes out to look for a home, that they're approved for the homes that they're looking for. So that's why I asked you, said, do you have a property of interest that I can do an estimate for you? Because as you know, Marie, it's not always about the sales price. It could be about, is there a condo fee? Or where are the taxes? Are you buying, where, depending upon what jurisdiction you're buying in, the taxes could greatly fluctuate. So we have to get back to the 3 critical factors in qualifying a borrower: credit, capacity, what is their debt to income, and cash. One of those 3 aspects is our limiting feature that is going to govern what that potential buyer can afford: credit, capacity, and cash.
The 3 C's.
The 3 C's. Now, here's how we can help a potential buyer. In the credit, of course, we have the situation, we want to find out their credit score. We don't want to depend upon consumer credit scores like Credit Karma, because they tend not to reflect what a mortgage credit report is. So if we get the credit report, and if there are abilities to help them improve their credit score, we need to do that. Then we look at capacity. That's the debt to income. Well, one of the features that within PenFed is our rates are very competitive, to where we believe that we are providing the consumer the best rate that we can, and that's typically a very competitive rate. Plus our mortgage insurance, if the consumer is putting less than 20% down, since we are a credit union, our factors for mortgage insurance are less. So therefore, because our rates are competitive and our mortgage insurance factors are lower, we can help on the capacity side, the debt to income. The third aspect that we can help is cash. And cash is usually a challenge because it takes time to accumulate. So if we can reduce the amount that the borrower needs, then we can be of assistance. And we do that in 2 programs right now. For purchase loans only, we have tiered credits where we will actually provide a lender credit based upon the loan amount. And then we do not charge lender, and the street term, junk fees. and they typically run $1,100 to $1,200. So we believe on a purchase loan, we can help the consumer buyer by reducing their closing costs anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500. So I think that's important to know.
That's a substantial amount. That's very substantial. Thanks for sharing that, because, and also mentioning, as you said, the term junk fees. I know that when we talk to our clients and we're asking them to share with us what they're being quoted by their lender, most of the time they have no idea where that quote is coming from. And we do help them look it over and say, are you being overcharged? Are you being charged junk fees? Are they explaining to you what these fees are? I mean, obviously there's fees and costs when it comes to purchasing a property, and some of them are actual and some of them are inflated. So I appreciate you mentioning that, explaining what junk fees are, and that the fact that PenFed Credit Union doesn't have any.
Well, and the important rate there is the APR rate. And that's where I ask, please, I don't want to provide you a higher rate than you can actually find, but if you provide me your loan estimate or your itemized fee worksheet and I provide you mine, then we can compare apples and apples to make sure that you're just not focused on the rate. That the APR, because you could be paying points to get that rate, you could be paying the higher loan origination fees to get that rate, and that would all be reflected in the APR.
You know, can I stop you there? Can you explain to the people that are listening to this today what a point is? What does that mean?
Sure. Yes, it's a point. It represents 1% of the loan amount. So if you're borrowing $300,000, a point or 1% is $3,000. So that's where we look at, perhaps that point is using to discount the rate to get a lower rate, then it's called a discount point. If it's just a flat, what we used to have as a loan origination fee that everyone paid just to get the loan, then that's what it was called, a loan origination fee. But in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 decades, that loan origination fee term has disappeared.
Okay. So PenFed doesn't have loan origination fees, is what you're...
No, the only time that the borrower would have a point charged to them is where they're discounting the rate.
And that's the same across the board. If anyone that wants to discount a rate can choose to pay a point to bring their rate down.
And on the flip side, if a buyer would choose a higher rate, they may get a lender credit to help towards their closing costs. So I sit down with the buyer and I say, okay, what is the best use of your money? Is it to buy down the rate, or should you accept a slightly higher rate and get money back at settlement? Because we find cash is usually the limiting feature in being able to buy a home. How many times have you heard from your agents that said if they just had more cash, they would be able to buy the home of their choice?
That's true. That's very, very true. And so I want to, wrap this up.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to let us know before we wrap this up for this afternoon?
Yes. Again, I'm very appreciative of the PenFed relationship. I enjoy being able to sit in an office, work with agents, and I enjoy the contact because there have been times where just the sheer fact that I was in the office when the agent got the phone call and they could look right across the desktop and say, I have a person who can answer your phone call now. So I think that's one of the things that I truly appreciate about our relationship. And I look forward to being able to come back and sit in your office, attend your sales meetings in person. But I would say this as I wrap up, we're learning a lot on what tools are available that we took for granted before the COVID virus. So when we come out of this, I think we'll be smarter and we'll be able to use the resources available to us that we just didn't use before. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott, for being here. And again, Scott Keenum with PenFed Credit Union, our mortgage partner. and I will post his contact information if anyone wants to reach out to him. Thank you,
Thank you,
Scott.
Kim.
Nice seeing you. Have a great
Have a
day.
great weekend. Bye-bye.